My name is Erica Wilson and I am 35 years old. As a successful marketing manager in Chicago, I thought I was doing the right thing by helping my family financially after their hardships. That changed instantly when my Uncle Tony sent me a video last month. There they were, my own family, calling me a worthless burden while laughing about how I had been paying their mortgage for 7 years. The same mortgage that had cost me over $175,000. Turns out blood really can be poisoned. Before I share how I confronted this betrayal, let me know in the comments if your family has ever taken advantage of your generosity. Hit that like button and subscribe to follow my journey from being used to standing up for myself. Growing up, our family seemed normal enough. There was my dad, Robert, a construction worker with a permanent scowl who worked long hours, and my mom, Diane, who jumped between retail jobs. My younger sister, Olivia, who could do no wrong in my parents' eyes. My brother Nathan, who was the baby of the family, and my Uncle Tony, Dad's younger brother, who always seemed to be the voice of reason in family disputes. Our house was small, 3 bedrooms in a working-class neighborhood in Cleveland. Money was always tight. Remember watching my parents argue about bills at the kitchen table after they thought we were asleep. And why Dad would slam his fist down, making the unpaid notices jump, while my mom would wipe tears with the corner of her apron. They worked multiple jobs, but never seemed to get ahead. I learned early on that if I wanted anything I needed to earn it myself. At 12, I was babysitting. By 15, I had a weekend job at the local grocery store. When college acceptance letters came, I realized that despite my excellent grades, my parents couldn't contribute a dime to my education. I managed to secure a partial scholarship to State University, but it only covered about 40% of the costs. To make ends meet, I worked 3 jobs simultaneously while maintaining a full course load, was a library assistant in the mornings, waited tables at a campus restaurant during lunch rush, and worked weekends at a call center. Sleep became a luxury. My tiny apartment was shared with 2 other girls to keep costs down, and I still graduated with $28,000 in student loans. After graduating with a marketing degree, I landed an entry-level position at Horizon Marketing. The starting salary wasn't great, but I was determined to make it work. I lived frugally, bought clothes from thrift stores, and brown-bagged my lunch every day. My hard work paid off, and within 4 years I had been promoted 3 times, nearly doubling my initial salary. Life was looking up until 7 years ago in the spring of 2018. I was 28, finally feeling financially stable enough to start looking at condos and possibly eliminating the last of my student debt when everything changed with one phone call. It was just after 9 in the evening when my phone rang, and my mom was crying so hard I could barely understand her. Between sobs, she explained that they were 3 months behind on their mortgage payments. Dad had been laid off during the winter and some medical bills had piled up. The bank had sent a final notice. They would lose the family home in 30 days unless they could come up with $8,000 immediately, plus resume regular monthly payments of $1,500. Remember the silence after she finished speaking. She didn't explicitly ask for my help, but the expectation hung in the air like a storm cloud. I thought about my own financial situation. I had about $12,000 in savings earmarked for a down payment on my own place. Was making good money now, but not enough to easily cover an extra $1,500 a month. But this was family. The same people who had, despite their limitations, raised me. The same house where all my childhood memories lived. I couldn't let them lose it. That weekend, I drove back to Cleveland. Sitting at that same kitchen table where I had overheard so many financial arguments as a child, I made an offer, would cover the $8,000 past due amount and take over their monthly mortgage payments until Dad found stable work again. They seemed relieved, but not particularly surprised, as if they had expected this outcome all along. Dad found another construction job eventually, but somehow there was always a reason why they couldn't take back the mortgage responsibility. His hours got cut and Mom had to reduce her hours due to her arthritis acting up. Olivia needed help with college expenses. Nathan needed a reliable car to get to his new job. There was always something. Months turned into years. My own plans for buying a home went on indefinite hold. I moved into a slightly nicer apartment, but nothing extravagant. I drove the same car I had since college. I passed on vacations with friends. All the while, $1,500 left my account automatically on the first of each month, heading to a mortgage company for a house I didn't live in. It was a sacrifice, but I told myself it was worth it. I imagine my parents were proud of me, grateful for the support I provided, expected that my siblings appreciated the stability I helped maintain. I believed my family respected me for stepping up when they needed me most. Looking back now, I realize how naive those assumptions were. After about 2 or 3 years of paying the mortgage, I started noticing subtle changes in how my family treated me. It was nothing dramatic at first, just small things that made me feel increasingly disconnected from them. I began to realize I was being excluded from family decisions. When Olivia got engaged to her boyfriend Brad, I found out through a Facebook post rather than a phone call. When they remodeled the kitchen, I saw the finished photos online before anyone mentioned the project to me. These small exclusions hurt, but I rationalized them away. Everyone was busy. It wasn't intentional. Then came Thanksgiving 4 years ago. Had told my mother I would arrive around 2 o'clock in the afternoon as I had an important client meeting in the morning before driving to Cleveland. When I arrived at 2:15, I was shocked to find the family already seated around the dining table, plates filled with turkey and all the trimmings. No one had waited for me, and worse, no place had been set at the table for me. Mom scrambled to find an extra chair and plate, acting as if there had been some miscommunication about timing. As I squeezed my chair between Uncle Tony and a distant cousin, my sister Olivia barely glanced up from her phone to acknowledge me. Dad grunted something about the turkey getting cold, as if I had deliberately delayed their meal. Only Uncle Tony seemed genuinely happy to see me sliding over to make more room and asking about my drive. The pattern continued with Christmas planning that same year. When I called to ask what time I should arrive for Christmas Eve, Mom sounded surprised as if she hadn't expected me to come. I later discovered they had planned a big family breakfast that no one had bothered to invite me to. I also noticed that phone calls from my family became increasingly focused on money matters. Mom would call with a sympathetic voice asking how I was doing, but within minutes the conversation would shift to some unexpected expense they were facing. Dad needed dental work not covered by insurance. The water heater had failed. Nathan needed tuition assistance for a technical certification. Meanwhile, I couldn't help but notice signs that their financial situation wasn't as dire as they portrayed. During my visits, I spotted a brand new 60 inches smart TV in the living room. Dad was driving a newer pickup truck than the one he had when I started paying the mortgage. Mom showed off an expensive kitchen mixer she had treated herself to. Nathan bragged about his gaming computer. Olivia flashes designer handbags. I tried to ignore these contradictions. I told myself they deserved small luxuries. Perhaps they had saved carefully for these purchases. Maybe they were gifts from other relatives. I made endless excuses for them because the alternative was too painful to consider. Why best friend Jennifer was less willing to overlook these signs. Over coffee one Saturday afternoon, she listened to me talk about my latest visit home and the brand new patio furniture they had installed. "Erica," she said carefully, setting down her cup. "Don't you think it's strange that they can afford all these upgrades while you're still paying their mortgage? It sounds like they're taking advantage of you." I immediately became defensive. "They're my family, Jen. They would do the same for me if I needed help, would they though?" She asked softly. "Have they ever actually sacrificed anything for you since you became an adult?" Her question made me uncomfortable enough that I changed the subject, but her words lingered. That night, I laid awake thinking about it. Had they ever really sacrificed for me as an adult? I struggled to think of examples. Sure, Mom occasionally sent care packages with homemade cookies, and they remembered my birthday with cards, but substantial support, financial or otherwise. No, I couldn't think of anything. Still, I pushed these thoughts away. Family was family. You didn't keep score. You helped because that's what family does. The mortgage payments continued, but the uneasiness grew. I started noticing more how conversations would abruptly change when I entered a room during family gatherings. The way Olivia and Nathan would exchange glances when I mentioned work accomplishments, how Dad would grunt dismissively when I talked about my promotion last year, then immediately turn to praise Nathan for holding down his warehouse job for 6 whole months. The feeling that something wasn't right continued to build. But I wasn't prepared for just how wrong everything actually was. It was a Tuesday evening when my phone chimed with a text notification. Was working late at the office finalizing a presentation for a major client. Normally, I would have ignored messages until I finished, but I noticed it was from Uncle Tony. He rarely texted me, preferring phone calls for our occasional catch-ups. Curious. I opened it. Erica, I'm sorry to do this, but you need to see something. I recorded this at your parents' house during the family barbecue last weekend. You should know what they say when you're not around. Below his message was a video attachment. My first thought was that there must be some mistake. Maybe he meant to send it to someone else. With a slight feeling of trepidation, I plugged in my headphones and pressed play. The video showed our family backyard. Dad was manning the grill while Mom Olivia, Nathan, and a few other relatives sat around the patio table. They were laughing, drinking beers, clearly relaxed, and enjoying themselves. I could hear Uncle Tony's voice occasionally from behind the camera, though he wasn't visible. Initially, it seemed like innocent family banter. Then my name came up. So, is Erica coming today? Uncle Tony's voice asked from off-camera. My mother rolled her eyes dramatically and oh, she's too busy with her fancy marketing job. Probably just as well. Yeah, Nathan snorted, taking a swig of beer. Now, we don't have to hear about how she's paying the mortgage. Like, she thinks she's some kind of savior or something. Dad flipped a burger with unnecessary force. She thinks she's so important because she sends money every month. Like, we should bow down to Princess Erica. My sister Olivia leaned forward, her voice dropping to a theatrical whisper. You know what she told me last month, that she's still putting off buying her own place because of our mortgage. As if that's our problem. They all laughed and my mother added, she acts like such a martyr about it. 2. Always these subtle reminders about her sacrifice. The worthless burden calls every month just to make sure we know she paid it. Dad nodded. She owes us who put a roof over her head for 18 years, who fed her. This is just her paying back what she owes the family. Exactly. Nathan agreed enthusiastically. She owes us. This isn't generosity, it's obligation. Uncle Tony's voice came through clearly. That doesn't seem fair. She's been helping you guys out for years now. They all dismissed his comment with more laughter. Helping Olivia scoffed. Please. She just does it so she can lord it over us, so she can feel superior with her college degree and her big city job. The video continued for another minute or two with more of the same. More mockery, more entitlement, more dismissal of my sacrifice as something I owed them. I sat frozen in my office chair, the presentation on my computer screen completely forgotten. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped my phone. I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach, forcing all the air from my lungs. I played the video again, hoping I had somehow misunderstood. But the second viewing only made it worse, allowing me to catch nasty comments I had missed the first time. Tears blurred my vision as the reality sank in. This was my family. These were the people I had sacrificed for, and this was what they really thought of me. Another text from Uncle Tony came through. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, Erica. I've been uncomfortable with how they talk about you for a while now. When I heard them this weekend, I felt you deserved to know the truth. They've been taking advantage of your kindness for years. Call me if you want to talk. I couldn't call anyone. I couldn't speak. I just sat there watching the video over and over again, each viewing like a fresh knife to my heart. 7 years of payments, 7 years of sacrifice, 7 years of putting their needs before my own. And all along they had been laughing at me, considering my help as nothing more than what I owed them. That night, I didn't sleep. I paced my apartment, alternating between sobbing and sitting in numb shock. By morning, my eyes were swollen, my throat raw, and my mind a chaotic mess of hurt, betrayal, and slowly simmering anger. The first few days after seeing the video, I went through phases of denial. Maybe they were just having a bad day. Maybe they had a few too many beers and were saying things they didn't mean. Maybe it was taken out of context. I desperately searched for explanations that would make their behavior less painful, less intentional. But as the shock began to wear off, I started to see past patterns more clearly. The exclusions from family events weren't oversights, but deliberate choices. The constant requests for additional financial help beyond the mortgage weren't genuine needs, but exploitation. The dismissive attitudes toward my career achievements weren't just differences in values, but active resentment. I finally called Jennifer 4 days after receiving the video. We met at a quiet cafe near my apartment, and I showed her the footage without comment. Her expression shifted from curiosity to horror to outrage as she watched those ungrateful manipulative. She stopped herself, looking up at me with eyes full of sympathy. "Oh, Erica, I'm so sorry. I had suspicions, but this is worse than I imagined." "What do I do, Jen?" My voice sounded small, even to my own ears. "I've been paying their mortgage for 7 years. That's over $175,000. First," she said firmly, "you stop paying immediately." The thought sent a wave of anxiety through me. Despite everything, there was still a part of me that worried about them losing their home. Jennifer must have seen the hesitation on my face. "Erica, they've been using you. They don't appreciate what you've done. They've been upgrading their lives on your dime while mocking you behind your back." She was right, of course, but ending the payments wasn't as straightforward as it seemed. I needed to understand my legal position first. The next day, I made an appointment with a lawyer specializing in family financial matters. Sandra Patel listened carefully as I explained the situation and showed her the video. She reviewed the payment history I had brought along, nodding thoughtfully. Legally speaking, she explained, these payments could be considered gifts unless you have documentation stating otherwise. "Did you ever create a formal agreement about these payments? A promissory note, anything in writing?" I hadn't. It had all been based on verbal understandings and family trust. Without documentation, she continued, reclaiming past payments would be extremely difficult. However, you are under no legal obligation to continue payments. The house is in their names, not yours. The mortgage agreement is between them and the bank. She helped me understand my options and the potential consequences of each. I left her office with a clearer understanding of my legal standing, but the emotional aspects were still overwhelming. That led me to my next step. I scheduled an appointment with Dr. Marshall, a therapist Jennifer had recommended. In his calm office, surrounded by plants and gentle lighting, I poured out the whole story. "What you're experiencing," he said after listening intently, "is a profound betrayal trauma. The people you trusted most have violated that trust in a fundamental way. It's natural to feel devastated." Over the next 2 sessions, Dr. Marshall helped me process my feelings and develop strategies for confronting my family, emphasized the importance of maintaining emotional boundaries while standing up for myself. "You need to decide what outcome you want," he advised. "Is it acknowledgement of their betrayal, reimbursement for some of what you've paid, or simply to end the financial relationship and establish new boundaries?" This question helped me focus my thoughts. What did I want? I spent a weekend soul-searching and came to several conclusions. Wanted them to acknowledge how they had taken advantage of me. I wanted to end the financial support without guilt, and I wanted them to understand that our relationship would need to change dramatically if it was to continue at all. With these goals in mind, I began to formulate a plan. I would continue to act normally for a short period, giving no indication that I had seen the video. I would gather all financial records related to the mortgage payments. I would prepare a clear, factual statement about what I had contributed and how their behind-the-scenes behavior had affected me. I texted Uncle Tony asking to meet for coffee. He agreed immediately, clearly worried about how I was coping. At a quiet corner table in a cafe far from my family's neighborhood, he filled in more context about the video. "It's been going on for years, Erica," he admitted sadly. At first, they were genuinely grateful, but as time went on, they started to feel entitled to your help. They've reframed it completely in their minds. Now, they see your assistance not as generosity, but as something you owe them for raising you. Have they said why they never told me they could take back the mortgage responsibility? I asked. Uncle Tony looked uncomfortable. They could have resumed payments at least 4 years ago. Your dad's been doing well at work and they've paid off other debts, but they've grown accustomed to having that extra money available for other things like the new truck, the kitchen renovation, Olivia's designer clothes. He nodded grimly. They don't see it as taking advantage. They've convinced themselves that this arrangement is fair because you make more money than they do because you don't have kids to support. This conversation confirmed what I needed to know. The exploitation was deliberate, ongoing, and unlikely to change without intervention. As the next mortgage payment date approached, I received the expected call from my mother. Her voice had the same faux concern it always did before pivoting to money matters. Honey, just checking in to make sure everything's on track for the mortgage this month. We've got the property tax payment coming up, too, so it's a tight month. I kept my voice neutral, giving no indication of what I knew. Everything's fine, Mom. The payment will be made as usual. That's a relief, she sighed. You're always so reliable, sweetheart. By the way, would you be able to come by next weekend? Dad's birthday is coming up, and we thought a small family gathering would be nice. This was the opening I needed. Actually, I was planning to visit anyway. There's something important I want to discuss with everyone. How about Saturday afternoon? She sounded curious but not alarmed. Saturday works fine. Should I be concerned about this important thing? No need to worry. I assured her, the lie tasting bitter on my tongue. Just some news I want to share in person. After ending the call, I took a deep breath and opened my computer. It was time to prepare for the confrontation that would either break my family relationship completely or forge a new, more honest one from the ashes of the old. The week before the scheduled family meeting was one of the most emotionally turbulent periods of my life. By day, I functioned on autopilot at work, smiling through meetings and completing projects with mechanical efficiency. By night, I alternated between anxiety attacks and bouts of focused preparation. I created a detailed spreadsheet documenting every payment I had made toward the family home over the past 7 years. The total was staggering $176,500. Seeing the number laid out so starkly made my stomach clench. That was a down payment on a beautiful home. That was freedom from my student loans several times over. That was years of retirement savings. All given to people who mocked me behind my back. On Tuesday, my mother called again, ostensibly to confirm Saturday's plans, but quickly turning to financial matters. Erica, honey, I wanted to remind you that the mortgage payment is due on Friday, she said casually, as if she were simply mentioning the weather forecast. And with Dad's birthday celebration, we're a bit tight this month. If you could make the payment a day early, that would be so helpful. I marveled at her audacity. After years of payments, she still felt the need to remind me, as if I might forget the significant sum that left my account each month. Actually, Mom, I replied, keeping my voice steady. I've already scheduled the payment for Thursday. It should clear in plenty of time. Oh, that's wonderful. Her relief was palpable. You're always so responsible, dear. We've raised such a thoughtful daughter. The irony of her comment made me grip my phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. But I managed to maintain my composure. See you Saturday, Mom. Around 2 o'clock, right? Yes, 2 is perfect. Looking forward to it. After hanging up, I sat at my kitchen table trembling with a mixture of anger and resolve. I had indeed scheduled a bank transfer, but it wasn't going to the mortgage company. Instead, I had opened a new personal savings account, aptly named New Beginning, and transferred the equivalent of 1 mortgage payment into it. This would be the first of many such deposits as I reclaimed my financial independence. Wednesday brought practical preparations. I visited a local print shop and had copies made of all my payment records organized by year. I created a simple but powerful presentation showing exactly how much I had contributed over time, juxtaposed with photos from social media showing the various luxuries my family had acquired during the same period. The new patio furniture, Dad's truck, Mom's kitchen renovation, Olivia's trip to Cancun, Nathan's gaming setup. I also purchased a small digital voice recorder. While I hoped the confrontation wouldn't require such measures, Sandra had advised me to document everything, especially if discussions turned to past or future financial arrangements. Thursday evening, I received a text from my sister Olivia. Mom says, "You have big news. You're not pregnant, are you, or engaged to some guy we haven't met?" The dismissive tone was clear, even in text form. I replied simply, "Neither. Just something I want to discuss with everyone together." "Well, now I'm really curious," she texted back. Hint. I didn't respond. Let her wonder. Let them all wonder. That night, I rehearsed what I would say. I stood before my bathroom mirror, practicing the words I had carefully prepared. I wanted to be firm, but not vengeful, clear, but not cruel. I wanted to maintain my dignity while making it unmistakably clear that things had changed forever. Friday morning brought a voicemail from my father, a rarity since he almost never called me directly. "Erica, your mother tells me the mortgage payment should be in today. Just checking that everything's on track. Call me back, not a word about looking forward to seeing me. Not a question about my well-being. Just a financial status check." I didn't return the call. By Friday evening, my phone was lighting up with increasingly concerned messages from various family members. The mortgage payment, which I had faithfully made for 7 years, had not arrived. My mother's texts escalated from gentle reminders to barely concealed panic. "Erica, the mortgage payment hasn't shown up in the account. Is everything okay? Honey, please call me. The bank called about the missing payment. Erica, this isn't like you. We're worried. Please call as soon as you get this." My father was less subtle. "The mortgage payment is late. Call immediately." I turned my phone to silent and continued packing my overnight bag for the trip to Cleveland tomorrow. I wouldn't be staying at the family home, of course. I had booked a hotel room near their neighborhood. A small act of independence that felt surprisingly empowering. Jennifer called that evening to check on me. "Are you sure you want to do this alone? I could come with you, moral support." "I appreciate that, Jen, but this is something I need to do myself," I explained. "Uncle Tony will be there, and he's on my side. Having you there might make it feel like I'm ganging up on them." "They deserve to be ganged up on," she muttered, but didn't push further. "Call me immediately after, okay, no matter how late." "I promise," I assured her, "and thank you for everything. I couldn't have gotten to this point without you." After we hung up, I double-checked everything I had prepared. The financial records were organized in a folder. The voice recorder was charged. My presentation was ready on my tablet. I had even prepared a simple document outlining my terms for moving forward, printed with spaces for signatures, though I had no illusions about whether they would actually sign it. As I lay in bed that night, surprisingly calm given what lay ahead, I realized something important. Regardless of how tomorrow went, I had already taken the most crucial step. I had reclaimed my power by deciding that I would no longer be the family ATM. Whether they accepted my terms or cut me off completely, I would be free of the financial burden and the emotional manipulation that had accompanied it for 7 long years. For the first time since seeing that devastating video, I fell into a deep, peaceful sleep. Saturday arrived with clear skies and a strange sense of calm within me. I checked out of my hotel around noon, giving myself plenty of time to mentally prepare before driving to my parents' house. I had chosen my outfit carefully. A professional-looking navy blue dress that made me feel confident and authoritative paired with the pearl earrings my grandfather had given me before he passed, a reminder that not all family connections were toxic. As I pulled into the familiar driveway. At exactly 2 o'clock, I noticed several cars already parked there. My parents, Olivia's shiny SUV, Nathan's sedan, Uncle Tony's pickup truck. Everyone was already gathered, likely discussing the mysteriously missing mortgage payment and speculating about my important news. I took a deep breath, grabbed my folder of documents and my tablet, and walked to the front door with my head held high. Before I could even knock, the door swung open. My mother stood there. Her expression a carefully constructed mask of concern. "Erica, we were so worried you haven't been answering calls and the mortgage payment didn't go through." She reached to hug me, but I stepped past her into the house, maintaining a polite but definite physical boundary. "We can talk about that inside." "Mom, is everyone here?" She nodded, following me as I walked toward the living room where voices could be heard. As I entered, the conversation abruptly stopped. 4 pairs of eyes turned to me with varying expressions. Dad looked angry, deep furrows between his brows. Olivia seemed annoyed, as if my presence was interrupting something more important. Nathan appeared uncomfortable, staring at his phone rather than meeting my gaze. Only Uncle Tony offered a small encouraging smile. "Well, look who finally decided to show up," my father said gruffly. "Care to explain why the mortgage payment didn't go through yesterday?" "The bank called me this morning." "I'll explain everything," I replied calmly. "That's why I'm here. You said you had news to share," my mother interjected, her voice tinged with nervous energy. "Is everything okay? Did you lose your job?" The question revealed so much. Her first concern wasn't for my well-being, but for her financial security. "I didn't lose my job. In fact, work is going very well," I said, moving to the center of the room. "Before I share my news, I'd like to show you all something." I pulled out my tablet, connected it to their TV using the cable I had brought specifically for this purpose, and pulled up the video from Uncle Tony. I didn't look at him, not wanting to put him on the spot, but I felt his supportive presence across the room. "What's this about?" Dad demanded impatiently. "Just watch," I said quietly and pressed play. The effect was immediate and dramatic. As their own voices filled the room, mockingly discussing me and the mortgage payments, their faces transformed. Mom's hand flew to her mouth in horror. Dad's face reened, then palled. Olivia looked like she might be sick. Nathan stared at the floor, unable to watch himself on screen. No one spoke during the video. No one dared interrupt as their cruel words hung in the air between us. When it finally ended, the silence was deafening. I let it stretch for a long, uncomfortable moment before speaking. "This was recorded last weekend at the family barbecue. An event I wasn't invited to, by the way." "Erica," my mother finally stammered. "It's not what it looks like. We were just joking around." "Joking?" I repeated, my voice steady despite the emotion building in my chest. "Calling me a worthless burden is joking. Saying I owe you for raising me is joking. Mocking me for helping you keep this roof over your heads is joking." "It had a few beers," Nathan mumbled, still not meeting my eyes. "People say stupid stuff when they're drinking in vino veritas." "Nathan," I replied, "alcohol doesn't create thoughts. It just removes the filter that stops you from saying them out loud." Dad shifted strategies, going on the offensive. "Who recorded this? Who was spying on us in our own home?" His eyes darted to Uncle Tony, who sat quietly in the corner. "Does it matter?" I countered. "Would you be this angry if you hadn't said those things in the first place? You're blowing this out of proportion." Olivia interjected, her tone dismissive. "So, we vented a little. Everyone complains about family sometimes." "Vented." I opened my folder and pulled out the financial records. "Let me show you what I've been doing while you were venting about me." I handed each of them a copy of the spreadsheet detailing 7 years of mortgage payments. $176,500, I said clearly. That's how much I've paid toward this house since 2018. A house I don't live in. A house I don't own any part of. A house that belongs to people who call me a burden behind my back. The numbers seemed to render them momentarily speechless. And during these 7 years, I continued swiping through my tablet to show the photos I had compiled. Here are some of the things my money made possible. Dad's new truck, the kitchen renovation, the backyard patio, Olivia's Cancun vacation, Nathan's gaming setup. All while I drove a 12-year-old car and lived in a 1-bedroom apartment to make sure I could cover your mortgage payments. We never asked you to sacrifice like that. Mom protested weakly. Didn't you? I challenged her. Every time I mentioned possibly cutting back on my contribution, suddenly there was a new financial emergency. Every time I talked about saving for my own home, you reminded me how much the family needed my help. You may not have directly asked, but you made it impossible for me to do anything else without feeling like I was abandoning my family. Dad tried a different approach. We're grateful for your help, Erica. Of course, we are. But family helps family. That's just how it works. Family doesn't mock family, I responded firmly. Family doesn't take advantage. Family doesn't lie. We never lied to you, he insisted. Really, Uncle Tony tells me you could have resumed the mortgage payments yourself at least 4 years ago. Your finances recovered. Dad's job has been stable. But you never told me that, did you? You let me keep paying month after month while you used your own money for luxuries instead of necessities, Uncle Tony finally spoke up. She's right, Robert. You and Diane have been in a position to take back the mortgage for years. Now. I've heard you discussing vacation plans and home improvements while Erica continues to sacrifice for you. My father shot him a betrayed look but didn't dispute the facts. So, here's what's going to happen, I said, pulling out my final document. The mortgage payment didn't go through yesterday because I didn't make it, and I won't be making any future payments either. But we'll lose the house, my mother gasped. No, you won't, I replied calmly. You'll do what you should have done years ago. You'll pay your own mortgage. Based on what Uncle Tony has told me and what I've seen myself, you can afford it. You just preferred having me pay it so you could spend your money elsewhere. You can't just cut us off like this, Olivia protested. What about family loyalty? Loyalty works both ways, Olivia. I've demonstrated mine for 7 years and $176,000. When did any of you demonstrate loyalty to me? The silence that followed was telling. I'm not asking for the money back, I continued. Though legally I probably could make a case for it since I have evidence you misrepresented your financial situation to continue receiving my assistance. Consider it my final gift to you. I handed my father the document I had prepared. These are my terms moving forward. If you want me to remain part of this family in any capacity, here's what needs to happen. First, a genuine apology, not excuses. Second, complete financial separation. I will never give or loan money to any of you again. Third, respect for my boundaries and my life choices going forward. They stared at the paper as if it were written in a foreign language. This is ridiculous, Nathan sputtered. You're treating us like we're strangers or business associates. You treated me like an ATM, I countered. I'm simply clarifying our relationship going forward. The argument continued for nearly an hour. They cycled through denial, anger, bargaining, and guilt trips. They insisted I was overreacting. They claimed the video was misleading. They reminded me of childhood memories and family obligations. Through it all, I remained calm and firm. I had said what I needed to say. I had laid out my terms. The ball was in their court. Finally, exhausted by the circular conversation, I stood to leave. I've made myself clear. Either you can accept that our relationship needs to change or we won't have a relationship at all. It's your choice. As I gathered my things, Uncle Tony approached me. I'm proud of you, Erica. It took courage to do this. Thank you for showing me the truth, I said quietly. It hurt, but I needed to see it. My mother made one last desperate attempt as I reached the door. Please, Erica, just one more month. Give us time to figure things out. I turned to look at her. Really look at her perhaps for the first time in my adult life. I saw not the loving mother of my childhood memories, but a woman who had calculated the value of my love and found ways to monetize it. You've had 7 years to figure things out, Mom. That's more than generous. With that, I walked out the door, got into my car, and drove away. As the house disappeared in my rearview mirror, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Whatever happened next, I had stood up for myself. I had reclaimed my power, my money, and my self-respect. The victory wasn't in hurting them or exacting revenge. The victory was in finally valuing myself enough to walk away from people who didn't value me. The days following the confrontation were a whirlwind of emotions. I fluctuated between empowerment and doubt, between relief and grief. There were moments when I wondered if I had been too harsh, times when I second-guessed my decision to cut off financial support so abruptly, but whenever these doubts crept in, I would watch the video again, a painful but necessary reminder of why I had taken such drastic action. As expected, my phone exploded with messages and calls from family members. My father's texts were angry at first accusing me of abandoning the family and threatening vague consequences. My mother alternated between tearful voicemails begging me to reconsider and guilt-inducing messages about how they might lose their home. Olivia sent long defensive explanations about how I had misinterpreted everything. Nathan was the only one who surprised me, sending a brief but seemingly sincere apology, though it was undercut by a follow-up asking if I could at least help with next month's payment until they get things sorted. I didn't respond to any of them. I needed space and time to process what had happened and to begin healing. 3 weeks after the confrontation, I made a decision that symbolized my new beginning. I put in an offer on a small but charming townhouse in a neighborhood I had long admired. It was within my budget, especially now that I wasn't sending $1,500 to my family each month. When the offer was accepted, I felt a surge of pride and accomplishment. This was mine, earned through my hard work without apology or explanation. Jennifer helped me move in, and we christened the new place with takeout Thai food and champagne on the empty living room floor. To new beginnings, she toasted, clinking her plastic cup against mine. And to true friendship, I added. I wouldn't have had the courage to stand up for myself without you. Uncle Tony was the only family member I maintained regular contact with. He called weekly to check on me and to offer updates on the family situation. According to him, my parents had indeed managed to resume mortgage payments themselves, though they had to cut back on other expenses to do so. This confirmation that they had been financially capable all along only validated my decision. 6 weeks after moving into my new home, I began seeing a therapist regularly. Dr. Lawson specialized in family trauma and helped me understand the dynamics that had allowed the exploitation to continue for so long. You were caught in a cycle of emotional manipulation, she explained during one session. They used your natural desire to help family as a way to control you financially. The fact that you broke free shows tremendous strength. Working with Dr. Lawson, I began to unpack the complex emotions around family obligations and self-worth that had led me to sacrifice so much for people who valued me so little. I learned to recognize the difference between genuine generosity and codependent enabling. Most importantly, I learned that having boundaries wasn't selfish, but essential for healthy relationships. 3 months after the confrontation, I received a letter from my mother. Unlike her previous attempts at communication, this one contained no guilt trips or financial pleas. Instead, it was a thoughtful, seemingly genuine reflection on her behavior and an apology for taking advantage of me for so long. I approached the letter with caution. Was this true remorse or just another manipulation tactic? After discussing it with Dr. Lawson and I decided to respond with a brief but civil message, acknowledging her apology but maintaining my boundaries. Over the next few months, other family members began reaching out in ways that respected my terms. My father sent a card for my birthday with a simple note. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Nathan invited me to coffee where he awkwardly but sincerely apologized for his role in the family's treatment of me. Olivia took longest to come around but eventually sent an email acknowledging that her behavior had been pretty terrible. I approached these reconciliation attempts carefully, always maintaining the boundaries I had established. I agreed to occasional family dinners but made it clear that financial discussions were off limits. I participated in holiday gatherings but stayed at a hotel rather than in the family home, was cordial but no longer susceptible to emotional manipulation. Not everyone accepted the new dynamic. Some extended family members took my parents' side, suggesting I was being unreasonable or unforgiving. I let these relationships fade naturally, recognizing that people who couldn't respect my boundaries weren't people I needed in my life. Meanwhile, I focused on building what Jennifer called my chosen family, a network of friends and mentors who supported me without conditions or expectations. I joined a book club, started volunteering at a local literacy program, and reconnected with college friends I had lost touch with during my years of financial sacrifice. A year after the confrontation, I looked around at my life and hardly recognized it in the best possible way. I had a home I loved, a career that continued to flourish, and relationships based on mutual respect rather than obligation. The money I had once sent to my family now went toward my retirement account, home improvements, and occasionally actual enjoyable vacations. The most profound change, however, was internal. I no longer measured my worth by how much I could give or sacrifice for others, had learned that my value as a person wasn't dependent on financial support or martyrdom. I had discovered that setting boundaries wasn't selfish, but an act of self-respect that actually allowed for healthier, more genuine connections with others. Some family relationships were slowly rebuilding on new, more equal foundations. Others had dissolved completely. I had made peace with both outcomes. In the end, the painful video Uncle Tony sent me turned out to be one of the greatest gifts I had ever received. It forced me to see a truth I had been avoiding for years and empowered me to make changes that transformed my life. Looking back now, I realize that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and others is to stop enabling destructive patterns. Sometimes standing up for yourself isn't just an act of self-preservation, but an opportunity for everyone involved to grow and change. As I sit here in my own home, financially independent and emotionally stronger than ever before, I understand that sometimes the family you're born into isn't the family that truly supports you. Sometimes you have to lose what you thought was love to find what love actually is. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members who took your generosity for granted? Share your story in the comments below. And if you found my journey helpful, please like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Remember, your worth isn't measured by how much you give to those who don't appreciate it. Thank you for listening, and I wish you strength and clarity in all your relationships.